Oh, Michael Schnell. Michael Schnell says, you love spacesuits. You also love Star Trek. Why have you never built a spacesuit from Star Trek? It's a great question. There is a spacesuit that I love from Star Trek. There is a spacesuit that I love from Star Trek. That means all of these spacesuits from Star Trek, I don't like them. For the most part, Look, I love Star Trek as a franchise. I love Star Trek as a utopia. I love Star Trek as a platform for political discussion. I am not a huge when it comes to aesthetics, I'm much more of a Star Wars dude than a Star Trek dude. As far as the future I want to live in Star Trek universe, not Star Wars universe. And so a lot of the props and ships and stuff from Star Trek they don't leave me cold because I think they're beautiful designs. They just don't make me itch like Star Trek, like the Millennium Falcon does. There's just nothing in the Star Trek universe that makes me, get that feeling like the Millennium Falcon does. I mean, and that's a tall order. That's one of the great ship designs in all creation. But there is a suit that I love, and it's the orange one. It's that orange one with the big triangle. Is that from the third Search for Spock, or that's one?
Yeah, Spock suit.
That's the Spock suit. Yeah, and Stephen Lane has one, and I got to spend some time with it in London. And I think there's a really specific reason I haven't thought about attempting that, is because it is really hard to replicate. Ryan Nagata has done an incredible job at replicating several Star Trek spacesuits, and I think he's even done that one. He might not have, no? It's a big piece of fiberglass, monolithic. It is one piece of fiberglass, and it's when something is that big, part of me is clear that I could sculpt something based on all the available reference material and still be way off the mark, because it's all compound curves. And thus, I am resistant, because the threshold to entry for a suit like that is a giant sculpt or a hell of a 3D drawing. And maybe, look, I haven't even looked. Maybe there are 3D drawings of that orange suit out there. It's without a doubt the most beautiful suit they ever built in the Star Trek universe. And I especially love the color. Obviously, I love the color orange. And I should make myself one of those. You're absolutely right. It's beautifully done with all right. Ryan Peck says, what is your take on the private space flight that recently completed and what it means for the future of space tourism? I'm a huge fan of space tourism. I appreciate that billionaires are fronting the money for the tickets to build an economy of scale to get more people up to space. I thought it was a great achievement. The first spacewalk, peeking out of a ship in orbit, in a fairly wide orbit, way out there for several days. That was the thing. My hat is off to that engineering team. That was a spectacular thing. I think that the public-private partnership in space is one of the more interesting current spaces. Too many uses of the word space. And I'm really fascinated by it. What did you ask? What it means for the future? Look, that's exactly what's happening. These companies are attempting to build an economy of scale, of a launch progression, because they're building a business model of getting people up into space and building a demand and building a thing. I don't know if what we'll end up with is what they envision, but right now, the amount of innovation that's going on in that space is really lovely. And I can't wait to see what people are doing with suits. the one thing about public-private partnership in space is there's just so little information right now about suits that Blue Origin or Virgin or Boeing or like, there's just, I feel like there's suits I don't know about being worked on, and I want to know more about who's doing what, because you might not know the spacesuits are a really difficult problem right now on the ISS. We are running out of workable suit parts because we're using legacy equipment up there, and there's still enough to go around. But like, they've had to get rid of entire size categories because stuff has sort of matriculated out of its lifetime utility. And so I'm really, really curious about what private industry might be able to do with spacesuit design. That's where I'm really curious about the innovation. All right. JakariaYT says, how do you decide what details to pick on a prop when you have conflicting references? That's a good question. So, conflicting references. It all depends on the source. And, all right, I'll give you an example. There are props like the oscillation overthruster, which come from Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. If you don't know about this movie, Buckaroo Banzai, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, with Peter Weller and John Lithgow and an incredibly young Ellen Barkin, it is really worth seeing. It's a surrealist masterpiece. But like, there's a key prop in that called the oscillation overthruster, and it is it's only in that movie. Okay, it shows up in some Doctor Who episodes because it was a prop floating around the London like prop scene. But when you're looking for reference of that, there's only a couple of those objects. So when you find a picture of an original, it's an original. But with like a Star Trek phaser, it could be on any one of several shows or several movies, and isolating where it's from. I'm dialing into something here about detail. Star Wars lightsabers are another great example where the same lightsaber of a character might still change from movie to movie in tiny ways that the prop department did. All this is to say that research is multivariant, and so you want to figure out if you want to replicate something, the best way to start. So sometimes you start just by trying to find every picture you can of the object from every execution of the object and take it all in. That's definitely where I start. Every picture goes into a big folder, and I'm gathering the sort of first layer of the internet's index of photos. And then once I've got those, I go into that folder and categories start making sense to me. And I start noticing, all right, there's 3 different movies here. So it's got to go in here, Chronicles of Riddick or Pitch Black, right? You know, you got to start putting stuff into buckets. I'll tell you, Camtono safe, it's very hard to find images of the real thing on set. It's not clearly seen. It's not as seen enough, in my opinion, in the episode. But there was a party or something in LA where it was on display with other Mandalorian props, and it was open. And it took me a couple of hours just to figure out that was the real thing. I had to look at a few hundred images before wrapping my head around, all right, this is a real prop, not a simulacrum of the prop. So the whole goal is to, then usually, once I have wrapped my head around the totality, I figure out which one I want, if that is a thing, right? Which movie do I want to execute this prop from? So that's how I narrow down those details. But still, there can be times where you just can't narrow down. And my favorite example is the Mercury suit. I recently showed a Mercury suit on the channel that Christine Noble made for me, with me, and it's... Well, the thing about Mercury suits is no 2 Mercury suits are the same, because the Mercury program was an iterative process in which they were testing new things every single day. Even down to like they made little flashlights on John Glenn's glove with a battery pack back here because on one of the early launches, it couldn't see the instrument panel under certain lighting conditions. And the little elastic bands that held the flashlights to his fingers cut his circulation off. Stuff like that becomes every single suit you can find a picture of has something about it that's different than another suit. So I had first talked to Christine about it, and I'd sent her all of this reference material, and said I wanted to make a sort of suit. I wasn't precious about which suit details came from because I just wanted a stand-in. And you know, a lot of Hollywood costumes that do this, they also, you know, they choose a specific suit to replicate, and then they replicate that one. And for me, actually, the suit I had the most pictures of is the suit that Christine ended up copying. So I did end up with a Mercury suit that made that choice. And that was Christine just like taking the most incredible deep dive into details, because there's not a detail out of place on that thing. I myself was daunted enough by the sheer volume of details that changed suit to suit to not think it was worth going that deep. But Christine taught me different.
Thank you for watching that video. Are you as sick of the tosses to membership as I am? Good, because here's a brand new one that I recorded today, and it's nice and short. There are 3 tiers to Tested membership, and they all offer awesome stuff. Find out about it by clicking the join link below. We'll see you there.